Hey, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. It is a pro wrestling podcast. So what are we going to talk about here? Pro wrestling, that's right. I'm recording this on August 8th. We recorded it live here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you ever want to jump in, we record at 7 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. So it's always a good time. It's fun. We interact a lot with the community. It's a lot of fun. So if you want to come and join in, we'd love to have you. It'd be great. Otherwise, thank you for listening on demand. Consider leaving a like here on YouTube and subscribe if this is your first time here as well. There's a lot of content that's been happening these days. We'd love to have you. Just like we'd enjoy having you on audio as well. Maybe you're listening to this on audio right now. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify. All these little things help out a great deal, help grow the podcast, both in video and audio and so on and so forth. We'd love to have you. We'd also love to have you. Come in live, right? But we'd also love to have you joining the Mr. MrWarrenHayes Show Discord. The link is in the description if you want to continue chatting about pro wrestling with people. And look, there's a lot of stuff going on the channel to begin with. The G1, we're going to talk about this later on in the show, but the G1 Climax is coming to an end, and so is my daily coverage. I've got 4 days of G1 content left, so that's upcoming, plus a Collision review, plus a Dynamite review, all coming up this week. So subscribe, join, follow, do whatever you can. You don't want to miss out on this stuff. I provide good analysis. I provide good thoughts. I provide energy and enthusiasm for pro wrestling. That's my thing. So why wouldn't you want a little more of that? I'd love to have you. And I appreciate you being here. What are we talking about tonight? Of course, the big topic is WWE SummerSlam. I'm reviewing the whole thing tonight. We've also got. I'm also going to talk about the revelations about about Vince McMahon being subpoenaed and having search warrants set up and so on and so forth. And some thoughts on the Elite re-signing as well, so on and so forth. G1 update. We've got a lot of stuff to get into. Let's get to it. It's time for the weekly wrestling inspection. Let's go ahead and talk about SummerSlam 2023, which is the biggest party of the summer. In fact, it is the biggest party ever of the summer, or so we've been told. Because SummerSlam, if we just look at the business aspect of WWE, it did tremendous business. Let's dive into it bit by bit here. Of course, we're talking about the event that took place on August 5th, 2023 in Detroit, Michigan. At Ford Field, WWE announced an attendance of 59,194 people, whereas WrestleTix has the attendance estimated at 51,477. I have a tendency to believe the lower number because we know WWE inflates the gates. I got rhymes up and down the lines. I'm not saying they're good. I'm just saying they rhyme. Because look, and this is not just me being pissy about it or just being that we know they do that. Vince McMahon even admitted to doing it during an earnings call at some point. He was like, "Oh, those are entertainment numbers." I think that's the quote he used. I can't remember for which show. But he had said, "Oh, those are entertainment numbers." It's like, entertainment numbers. Okay. Fantastic, pal. 59,194 is what they announced, but we're closer to 51,500, if anything else. And just in case you're new and you're like, well, why do they inflate the numbers, Warren? How can they get away with this? Because they count every single person in the building, and that includes talent, that includes staff, that includes road crew, that even includes the arena staff, ushers, security, janitorial, whatever managers they have there. That's what, it's just as simple as that. And then there's questions as to whether or not they they count how they count lounges. That's not the right word. The and not the skyboxes either. You know, the fucking private rooms. As you can tell, I'm very much into sports. But you know what I'm talking about. Apparently, like, you know, there's even there's questions as to how they calculate in regards to that. Do they calculate the maximum capacity? The suites. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. The suites, indeed. So do they calculate everyone in the suite? Or do they, is it like an average? You know, if there's supposed to be 12 people, but there's only 8, do they still count 12, etc., etc., etc.? But the numbers are inflated. We know this, so that's not me just being a prick. That's just how it goes. But it did do good business. WWE put out a press release announcing that this was the most watched and highest grossing SummerSlam of all time. But when? You may be asking yourself out loud in a weird accent. Warren, why is all WWE events grossest of all highest of time? Hopefully you can construct sentences better. It does come out every time, and this is something that we have to keep reminding ourselves. On one hand, yes, the business is very good for WWE. They are filling out arenas, stadiums. Their live shows are doing very well. The house shows are doing very well. So we cannot be too condescending on that point because it is working out very well. But ticket prices have been inflated significantly. So we're saying, the highest grossing SummerSlam of all time. Which they are doing tremendous business on. 8.5 million gate is what they reported, if I'm not mistaken. And that's tremendous. Like, that is huge business. The question is, do they end up with the question is how does that compare to events of the past, SummerSlams of the past, adjusted for inflation, right? Because I think that's a thing, right? That's absolutely something that's something that should be observed. Because of course, $8.5 million in 2023 money isn't worth the same as in 2022 or in 2002. It's probably pretty much the same in 2002 or in 1997 or 90. You understand where I'm coming from. But still, like, it's tremendous business. We can't take that away. Well, this is what they say here specifically. With 59,194 in attendance, in the Motor City, SummerSlam generated a record gate of 8.5 million, the largest gate for any non-WrestleMania event ever. It was the most watched SummerSlam in company history and among the top 3 audiences in the history of WWE on Peacock. I'm going to keep hammering this home. Sure, and I think they even said that there were 2 million people who watched the SummerSlam, if I'm not mistaken, which is tremendous. But the question, the thing that we don't have for streaming numbers, and I just want to hammer this home because it's important, is that we don't know how many of these are when does a view on Peacock count as a view? Is it 30 seconds? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 8 minutes? Because it's surely not longer. It's surely not very long. The amount of people watching 2-3 minutes in, that's significant, but how many drop off? And this is the kind of data that we do get with Nielsen because we have quarter hours, but we don't have with the streaming networks because they keep that private, and that's fine. That's their thing. It's business intelligence, and it's absolutely okay that they want to hang on to that. They're a private company. They don't owe us anything. That's fine. So 2 million people, most watched SummerSlam in company history. Okay. And don't forget, Peacock was offered for free for a bunch of cable providers in the United States last year, and that doubled their numbers. So we'll see. This is something to keep an eye on over the next few months, because a lot of these free deals are coming to a close. A lot of people are going to have to start paying for them now, and then even going into next year, it'll be interesting to see how that maintains. But the numbers have been reported as such. There's really no way to verify. And here's something that's very interesting to me. There's something that just in the back of my head, right? And I would assume, and I'm not saying that they have to do it, and I'm not saying that they should be doing it or whatever. I'm just assuming that if the Peacock got 2 million people, like 2 million people at once, watching their streaming program, wouldn't NBCU put out a press release to tout that? And I'm talking independently from WWE. Not unlike what Warner Bros. Discovery, not unlike what they do when Dynamite does a really good number. I got it out. I can talk. I'm good at it. That's the thing that's very curious to me. It's like, what is it? What makes it so interesting? How can it be that interesting and mind-boggling? How can it be that big that your broadcasting partner just doesn't say a peep, boop, And you would expect that something that generates a huge success like that would absolutely generate some press releases, some hype from NBCU, but they're not. Is it coincidental with the TV deals happening? Maybe NBCU doesn't want to push too many things because WWE is scouting for a deal. Maybe they don't want to tip the hat too much. I don't know. Look, I'm just saying it's a little weird. SummerSlam generated the most sponsorship revenue for any non-WrestleMania event ever, with $7 million, up 23% versus 2022. Slim Jim, C4, and Rocket Mortgage were among WWE's sponsors for the premium live event. In partnership with special event retailer partner Fanatics, merchandise sales were up 60% versus the record set in 2021, making the best performance in company history for any premium live event outside of WrestleMania. On-location packages set a new SummerSlam record, up 47% versus 2022. There were quite a few of those pop-up shops. There was a pop-up shop, WWE merch store downtown. They're doing what they got to do. Let's put it that way. And then there was even the Detroit Sports Commission. This was Brandon Thurston, of course, of WrestleNomics, the weekly plug. I don't get any kickbacks. Just go follow them because they do fantastic work. Brandon Thurston brought this to our attention. A quote from the Detroit Sports Commission executive director, Dave Beechnow. I'm going to say Beach now. It says, quote, landing WWE SummerSlam at Ford Field is a signature win for Detroit and continues the momentum of the Detroit Sports Commission in attracting major sporting events to the region. Metro Detroit enjoys a special place in WWE history and has produced many iconic moments. Thank you to the entire WWE family for entrusting us with this incredible opportunity, and we look forward to delivering a first-class experience. So that's interesting. And this was not in the press release. This was a statement that was given to a news outlet, if I'm not mistaken. So this sort of implies that there was some kind of site fee that was engaged here. That there was, and Triple H confirmed at the press conference, if I'm not mistaken, that there was indeed a bidding process. That there was indeed a bidding process. So again, WWE getting not just money from the gate, from revenue from not just getting revenue from the gate, from merch sales, but also from the cities themselves. Now the cities come in and bet on bid, I should say, on getting WWE events over, and clearly not just limited to WrestleMania anymore. And look, we know they did this. They did it in Cardiff. They did it in Puerto Rico. This is part of their business model moving on. Now you can absolutely say everyone else does it. Bidding wars for big events. Why don't they do it for that? I'm like, sure. So that's the brushstrokes, the grand brushstrokes of the business aspect of SummerSlam this year. If you want more in-depth stuff, please go check out WrestleNomics. Brandon and Jesse Collins this week actually talked about it and just brought up fantastic, exquisite details, up and down and all around. But now we're going to talk about the show itself. Now we're getting to the meat and potatoes here, where this show, you want a spoiler about what I thought about the show? Okay, I'll give it to you before we move on. I don't think this was a bad show. And I know there's a lot of people calling this a bad pro wrestling show. I don't think it was bad. I think it left a very sour taste in our mouths because of the two final matches on this card. However, I think this was a very WWE event, and for better, for worse. And in this case, for a lot of worse. I think this was at the very least a mediocre show that was highlighted by some very good. Look, the good stuff on the show it shined. Like the really good stuff shined. But oh my Lord, did we sink to the depths? Did we? Oh boy. Are you excited now? Do you want me to talk? Should we talk more about it? Do you want me to keep going? Let's start. Logan Paul defeated Ricochet. Look, this was a spot fest, pure and simple, and a good one. I'm not, I'm not going to sit here and tell you spot monkeys. That's exactly what this was. They were out there doing cool moves. I have no problems with cool moves. People want to do cool moves for me for 18 minutes. I'll let them do it. That's fine. I enjoyed the pace. Michael Cole had me laughing at some point where, Logan Paul is doing the ear thing, the Hulk Hogan ear thing that CM Punk also does, by the way. Babyface CM Punk. Of course, he's not a heel, or so I've been told. But he's doing that. And Michael Cole says he's been watching tapes. He's been watching tapes of the greats. He's watching tape of Hulk Hogan doing the ear thing? No, I don't think so. That's not watching tape. That's watching any fucking clip of pro wrestling from the 80s and 90s. And that's not what watching tape is. And if he's watching Hogan for tape, I hope he's watching, early 80s New Japan Hulk Hogan and not 1996 Hulk Hogan if he's watching tape. Who needs to be watching Hogan tape to get the ear thing down? One of the most iconic hand gestures in pro wrestling. He's watching tape. That I will tell you all, gave me a very good chuckle. I thought that was quite funny. So anyway, everything, everything was going well, and they're doing tribute spots, right? They're doing Ricochet does the People's Moonsault, hasn't pulled that one out in a while, and Logan Paul does the Hogan Paul, right? Which is like a leg split, leg drop, which actually looks more like a Melina tribute spot. There we have it, folks. We got the Melina tribute spots on a pay-per-view. Shout out. Congratulations. Melina, mover and shaker, up and down. Great inspiration to wrestlers everywhere, including Logan Paul. But for real, I looked at that and I was like, that's a Melina thing. That's legit what Melina does. She, does the splits thing and whomp, right? That's what she does. And that's what Logan Paul did. It's a Melina tribute spot. I'm calling it for what it is. Not the Muda lock, the Melina lock, or whatever the fuck she called it. Anyway, got a little sidetracked by chat there. Anyway, everything was high flying. It was spot, everyone was spot hungry, but it all came crashing down with a ridiculous and match-breaking finish. When a dude dressed up as a roadie or as staff with a hoodie, and he passes Logan Paul some knuckles, some brass knuckles, and he uses them on Ricochet and he gets the win. And I'm like, okay, this completely disintegrated everything we had been leading to. Everything that this match was building to just came toppling down. Bad finish to a pretty good match. I'll be honest. I hate Logan Paul. I still legitimately think Logan Paul is a true to form bad person with, capital B, capital P with a little TM. But what he did here with Ricochet observably was entertaining. It was pretty good. But I'm going to say, I've got something to say. I've got something to say to every WWE fan out there who's ever watched a spot match like with Ricochet or Will Ospreay or the Young Bucks, who just sat there and always crossed their arms and mope and say, fucking spot monkeys, there's no story here, it's just fucking spots all over the place. If you are one of those and you enjoyed this match, you can no longer complain about anyone doing spot shows. That's the spot show, something else. Spot fests in a match. You can't. You've been disqualified because there was no story to this match. There was no story to this match. There wasn't anything holding it together, cohesively. It was guys doing cool stuff. And sometimes in wrestling, that's fine. But I promise you, anyone who thought this was cool, but then we'll look at a Lucha Bros Young Bucks match and go, this shit stinks, they're disqualified. You have to take away every possible way that they get to communicate their wrestling opinions. You have to take them all away. They're disqualified. They're out of here. Hit the showers. Hot opener. I enjoyed it. Even though Logan Paul, that buckshot lariat that he did off the apron. Okay, cut it out, pal. Cut it out, pally. But this was probably the greatest moment in Ricochet's WWE career, right? This is probably the greatest moment of all times for Ricochet. It's not going to get any better than this. When Ricochet then hits the media and then he says, one day I'm going to be one day I'm going to be I'm going to win a Royal Rumble, you'll see. I'm like, that's cool, kid. There was a time where I as well had a dream to be an astronaut bikini salesman, but no, that never came to fruition. It's exactly, it's legitimately funny because this is the thing that happened when he was Intercontinental Champion and he wasn't being booked on any pay-per-views. You remember that stint, right? When the IC title was in the fucking mud, and he took to, and he said, he said something to the effect of, I'm gonna make damn sure that I'm going to be on the pay-per-views or something like that. Like, brother, you have any sway over Vince McMahon. For some reason, you ended up with the title, and Vince, just looked at him and said, he's too small, he's goofy. What the fuck are we doing here? He can't talk, he can't do anything. Well, as if he could walk up to Vince McMahon. Ricochet walking up to Vince McMahon saying, Vince, I want to be on the show. So, look, spare me winning the Royal Rumble, but it's nice to get the fan base excited, I guess. One last thing, last thing. I love how they made such a big deal of Samantha Irving. Look, the ring announcer, his girlfriend, how they made such a big deal out of her crying because he lost. I'm like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, you'd think Samantha would be used to Ricochet losing at this point. Because if she's crying, if she's still crying about him losing matches, that, whew. All right, let's move on. I've talked more than enough about that match because I want to talk about this fucking match. Cody Rhodes defeating Brock Lesnar. I'm coming right out and saying it. This was my match of the night. I don't think anything even comes close. Look, I'm talking about it with a smile. I fucking love that match. And a match of the night by a mile. There is nothing that even came close to being as great as this match was. Drama, beatdowns, white meat, baby face isms. It had everything. It broke the conventional WWE house style, which is always refreshing, and that's always the case with a Brock match. And you knew Brock was going to basically, who agents Brock? I'm asking this seriously. Who agents a Brock Lesnar match? Who sits down and says, pushes up their glasses, pulls out their notes. All right, Brock, so what's your opening spot? When do you want to start with? Come on now. Let's get real here did they send Nick Aldis? Was this the test that they had Nick Aldis do? Nick, we want you to go agent Cody and Brock. Cody, who Nick Aldis and Nick, look, as far as I know, Nick Aldis and Cody Rhodes can't stand each other. And then Brock. Of course, I'm joking in regards to the Nick Aldis stuff, right? He was on Raw, wasn't he? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Cody did a spectacular job here. He absolutely did a spectacular job. Brock is just throwing him around. No one even use the word Suplex City on commentary, right? I don't think I heard it. And that was a crying shame because that's where Cody was. He was absolutely taken to Suplex City. And Brock just tosses him to the floor over and over again. He gets back in. Well, fuck. Brock beats him up some more and tosses him back out. Brock doesn't even want to dignify this guy with a pinfall, with a submission. He's like, I'm going to beat you so hard you won't be able to get up. You won't be able to beat a 10 count. He's tossing him over and over to the floor. He gives Cody an F5 on the floor. Cody gets back in. So, Brock fires him back out. And Lesnar, gives him an F5 through the announce desk. And I'm like, okay. And they got me on this one. Because I was like, oh, okay, so Cody's losing is what you're telling me. I bought into this. I was like, can you imagine how bad the world of professional wrestling commentary is going to melt down if Cody loses this match? And I was ready for it. It's still fantastic. And you know why this worked magnificently? It's because you buy into Brock being a brute and Cody being the guy you root for. We get a series of Cody cutters and a Kimura by Brock. Cody wriggles out of it and locks in one of his own. He avoids an F5. Cody hits 3 consecutive crossroads to put Brock away. Just a great, fantastic, come from behind, comeback story of a match. Someone call CM Punk, tell him that's the Rocky 3 match. That's what it was. No bullshit, no overbooking, no fucking, no yard equipment, no motor vehicles, a clean finish, a clean winner. Look, WWE, if they know how to book Cody as a babyface. I will give them that. They absolutely get it. I loved it. Nothing even comes close on this card to this match. After the match, Brock shakes Cody's hand and raises his arm in appreciation, and this was something completely unplanned. So we had to have oodles of articles, 250 to 400 words talking about this. People wrote articles about this. And I'm going to tell you why it's silly as hell. That we're celebrating unplanned things happening in WWE. Because why are we celebrating wrestlers doing things organically, right? Why are we doing this when normally a professional wrestler should absolutely do things spontaneously, hear a crowd reaction and shake his fist at him? Well, that was not the planned finish. Wasn't that great? And then you're also burying what you're doing. Look, whatever we had planned wasn't as good as this, right? This was great. What are we even doing here? Like, no one looks good here. No one looks good. Everyone's celebrating this, but then I'm like, fuck, this is basic wrestler behavior. Are we gonna, I never saw an article when, John Moxley messed up Wheeler Yuta's hair after a match. I'm pretty sure that wasn't in the script, boys. What are you doing unplanned things? It's so stupid, but I love this. And look, one last thought. When Cody sticks to the basics, and I mean this very sincerely, when he sticks to the basics, because he understands pro wrestling, don't anyone tell you otherwise. When he sticks to the basics, doesn't go full melodrama, doesn't, get all sorts of people involved, and he's so fucking good at this. He is so amazingly good at this. Match of the night, and it's one of my favorite matches I've seen so far in August. It's not a match of the year. I wouldn't put it up there, but Christ, if this wasn't exciting. So this show is off to a rousing start. I'm in MrWarrenHayes headquarters. I'm seated in my armchair. I've got drinks. I'm like, yeah, this rules. I'm about to go make some popcorn because it's the Slim Jim Battle Royal. Well, first of all, I want to say hello to Silver Apocalypse. It's good to see you, pal. Welcome to the show. So here's the yes, there is coffee and bagels, but only in the morning, free parking absolutely all the time. Why is the chat distracting me so much tonight? I apologize to everyone who's not here live. I have only myself to blame for encouraging them. So LA Knight defeated, who cares? It doesn't matter. None of this mattered. I asked around and was like, does anyone know? Is there a stipulation? Is there a title match? I was like, no, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's just it's just sponsored by Slim Jim. I'm like, okay. So, that's it. It's just people fighting for no reason, and it's weird because, don't the WWE fans, don't they always need a reason for things to happen? What was the reason here? Well, Warren is just a battle royal. Oh, okay. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of people here. LA Knight won. Nice little way to get LA Knight, to give LA Knight a win. Listen to what I'm about to say. Nice little way for LA Knight to get a win in front of a crowd, make the crowd happy, but ultimately have that win mean absolutely nothing in the long run because there is no stipulation. He doesn't become the number one contender of anything. This match will never be mentioned again in the history of WWE, kind of thing. Not unless Slim Jim pays for it, right? Are we in agreement? I believe so. Look, how many times have we talked about the zombie match sponsored by, what was it, Army of the Dead or whatever the fuck? How many times have we heard talk about that match since? None, because they're not paying WWE money to talk about it anymore. What about the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match? Same thing. Oh, by the way, it was also shit. There's no reason to talk about it either. But see, you give LA Knight the big win. The crowd is happy. They're like, yeah, it's our guy. But ultimately, it means jack shit. It means nothing. WWE can continue to make sure that he doesn't get over. They can continue to put him in meaningless little things. Now I know he's got some quibbles. He's got quibbles too. Not the same type of quibbles that I have, but he's got quibbles with people on Raw. Isn't he on SmackDown? What about the brand split? It doesn't fucking matter. But as we'll give LA Knight a little something here, but at least it's not interfering with the plan. Because damn well they could have had The Miz win this one, which was my prediction when I was on the Beards last Thursday, between two beards over on Love Wrestling. They were like, who do you predict is going to win here? Why? So I was like, is LA Knight in the match? And they said yes. All right, well, The Miz is going to win. That's exactly what I said. But no harm, no foul here, right? Everything's fine. It's just a meaningless match. Made the sponsors happy. Of course, Apollo Crews is the first guy to be eliminated. And I'm sorry, Ricochet is going to be the next Apollo Crews. Anyway. What a dork Matt Riddle looks like now. What an absolute fucking dork. This is a guy who was what, a year ago? How long has Orton been out? He was in this thing with Randy Orton and he was over. He was getting reactions. He was being put in top spots. And now he's a dork. And I don't know if there's stuff happening. I don't know if there's stuff happening backstage. I don't know if there's, maybe there's some bullshit we are not privy to. Maybe there's some that guy, Matt Riddle, comes with a crazy amount of baggage. So maybe, WWE is like, you know what, we're fed up with this guy. Maybe the UFC merger is playing against him too. Him and Dana White, look, I don't know. But to say, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you, if I didn't share this thought with you, that I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out the rest of his contract. They tried to even shoehorn him into the bloodline thing, and that failed miserably. Miserably. Even the hottest angle in the company couldn't get this guy over. I think he's dead in the water. And it's crazy. It's crazy because, thank you for everyone giving me hearts right now. That's very sweet. Thank you. But it's crazy that he's he's coming in as a guy that everyone used to like, that everyone was like, yeah, I mean, this guy has so much potential, so much charisma, etc., etc. And now he's just relegated to... It's ridiculous. Have you noticed that Omos now has the Kane rule? He's now he's the new Kane, where we're gonna have battle royals and Royal Rumbles, and everyone's gonna be like, oh, Omos is the big guy, and he's dangerous, and he's very tall, and he can toss us out in a second, and they're gonna hype him up as being super dangerous, but then you'll just have like every match there'll be 6 to 8 guys who are gonna pile up on him and toss him over the top rope, and that'll be that. But they're always gonna be like, Omos is oh no, it's Omos. So they tried to create this aura. We can't start this match without the 7-foot-tall Nigerian monster, Omos. And I'm like, who cares? This guy is the least credible big guy in primetime TV pro wrestling right now. Not because he doesn't look huge. It's because he's been booked like a geek. It's just as simple as that. Anyway, Slim Jim Battle Royal, who the fuck cares? And boy, oh boy, if we were circling the drain here, we got even closer with this match. MMA rules. Shayna Baszler defeated Ronda Rousey. So listen, whoever decided to set this up was setting these women up for failure. Not that I think hey Pluggo, nice to see you. Welcome. It's good to see you. Talking about the Between Two Beards podcast, that's the guy. One of the guys, anyway. I don't think, I want to make something very clear. Despite the fact that I truly believe that this was doomed from the get-go, this MMA rules match, I don't think a singles Ronda Rousey match, professional wrestling match, would have got the crowd alive regardless, right? But WWE fans, listen, they don't like things that are outside the realm of their sports entertainment. And this MMA stuff, well, that's not sports entertainment. They're very resistant to change. They don't like things that don't have weeks of packages, right, to build everything up. Maybe if they had MMA exhibition matches to explain the rules beforehand. No, this all stunk. Jokes aside, the MMA pro wrestling crossover thing among fans is overrated. I don't think the Venn diagram of pro wrestling fans and MMA fans, I don't think it overlaps as large as many people think it does. I really don't. I really think that I think that we both live in different cosmoses. I think MMA fans think pro wrestling is stupid because it's not real fighting, and I think pro wrestling fans think MMA fights are kind of dull because it lacks pizzazz, it lacks moves. I think that's what I get, and I don't think anyone gets excited for UWFI style matches that frankly already have a reputation of just being out of place and stinking up the joint. Like, why would you do this in front of 51,000 people and saying, you're going to be into this? Like, no one's going to be into this. When is the last time? I mean, it's happened. It's happened. There have been worked shoot fights that have worked. Look, the Bloodsport gimmick is all based over that. And you could even argue that that for the past few years, the Bloodsport shows that GCW puts on aren't even all that great anymore. Kind of like we're all in on the thing now. It's really not as good. Worked shoot fights are more often than not good, in the realm of boring. And we decide to do this, right? I think, I talked about this on the preview last week, right? Owen Hart and Ken Shamrock that one time, right? And then I think, didn't Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle have like a shoot type MMA style fight and that ruled? But then again, Everything Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle did together ruled. And there's probably, look, there is some stuff from the UWFI. There's some stuff from Pancrease later, you know, what, not Pancrease itself, but, you know, when it started transitioning and, you know, we had Pancrease guys, what I'm trying to say, coming into New Japan. Like, there's probably a couple there, but overall, look, New Japan decided to do the crossover, the whole Inokiism thing, and that almost tanked the entire company. What the fuck are we even doing here? Okay? Shayna gets a choke in and she, you know, and Ronda taps out. Uneventful, uninspired, and even by both women, you know, uninspired by both women who should technically be in their element, right? And, you know, what didn't help either was the crowd, you know, for the past few weeks, you know, there was all sorts of weird interaction between Shayna and Ronda that you didn't quite know who was the babyface, who was the heel. So the audience sort of like, okay. You know, there were some boring chants that came in very clearly on television, but from what I hear, it was extremely minimal. But everyone was pretty much sitting on their hands. Everyone was being very, very respectful. You know, like the crowds in Japan. So Ronda is done with WWE. She had a hard out clause at SummerSlam. She's gone. She hit the bricks. We put the kibosh on this run of hers in World Wrestling Entertainment. And listen, she is one of the reasons that I thought that this product started stinking tremendously over the past 18 months or so. She went from being a superstar for this company. Always keep a clear head as to what was going on a few years ago when she made her arrival in WWE. When she came in and she established herself as a top star, she was still very relevant in the zeitgeist, as the kids like to say. And she established herself as a star. WWE treated her like a big fucking deal. And now, in this leg of her journey, after coming back at the Royal Rumble 2 years ago, she just became just another face on the roster. Nothing special about her, no aura. But I don't want to blame WWE booking entirely on this one, because from the moment she came back at the Royal Rumble, she looked completely uninterested, barely bothered to emote. And this went on for weeks. This stunk. Her run stunk. And you can put the blame on booking as much as you want, but Ronda didn't have it anymore. Whatever she had gained in that first run, she left it all aside. She was disinterested. She was not into it. No energy, low effort. She can hit the bricks. I'm completely okay if I never see Ronda Rousey in a pro wrestling ring ever again. I'm good. Next, a little salve, I should say, on our burns here, because we've been burned by this match here. Gunther successfully retained his Intercontinental title against Drew McIntyre. I like this a lot. Probably my second favorite match of the night. But I felt like it under-delivered. Does that make sense? Because look, especially coming off the heels of the fantastic, excellent, dare we say, WrestleMania match, with Sheamus, the triple threat. Off of that, I was like, all right, let's just get these two big boys in and just fantastic. Let's continue down this path of, Gunther being this tremendous, no nonsense ass kicker, which is so sorely needed in this company. But I feel like didn't reach what I thought it should, if that makes sense. And the weird thing is that I liked the match. I liked the match quite a bit. You know, if we're talking scale ratings, I'd give it a 3.5, and I think that's fair. But I was expecting a lot more. Maybe my expectations were too high, but I don't think they were. Not for these two dudes, right? Anyway, this was high impact. There were the chops, of course, and it had all the big power moves you could want. German suplexes, splashes, future shocks. It's a buffet. It's a buffet of spamming power moves when you're playing video games. But it just didn't crank into a final gear. Good match, very, very good, but I expected more. As Gunther inches ever so closer to beating the Honky Tonk Man's legendary reign of 454 days, if I'm not mistaken. I might be off a little bit, but I think that's what it is. Why is it so easier for me to get into this title reign, or the potential of Gunther beating that record? Why is it easier for me to get into that than Roman Reigns' 1,000-day reign? Is it because the 1,000-day number is so arbitrary and doesn't mean anything? Could it be that? Could it be because he's winning matches in strong, often dominant fashion without requiring layers upon layers of interference and monologues and stories? Maybe. Then we had the WWE the World Heavyweight title match, where Seth Rollins successfully retained his title against Finn Balor. I really don't have much to say here. I think this was better than their match at Money in the Bank. I don't know. This was not a question where I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back and check it out. No. But I feel more positive after this match than I did at their Money in the Bank match. If that makes sense. I feel like this, I feel like I like this more, but I also feel like a lot of Seth Rollins, Finn Balor matches sort of all smushed together. Look, effort was there. It was well worked. Good little wrestling match. Then the finish happens, and all my interest in the match flies away. It evaporates like a puddle of water in the hot, hot summer sun. Rollins hits a pedigree, and Damian Priest comes down to the ringside. And he hits Seth while the ref is distracted. Finn Balor hits a pedigree as well. Can't quite get the pin. And then we have interference. We have storyline, right? We have finishers being held. The crowd is into it now. Because up until this point, this crowd is not into it. But now that we've got the people, now that we've got the elements for stories, now that we have all these elements, the crowd is into it. Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio are there too, by the way. They're at ringside. They distract the referee. And then Finn Balor and Damian Priest, they start disagreeing. They have an argument in regards to the briefcase. You know, Priest wants Finn to use it on Seth Rollins. But Finn thinks Priest wants to cash in. So Priest is going, ha ha ha, and Balor's going like, nah, nah, nah. And it's just, you know, it's a land of confusion, as Genesis once told us. So this is the world we live in. There's shenanigans. There's more shenanigans. Priest distracts the ref. Then Finn goes to use the Money in the Bank briefcase, it turns out, but Seth stomps him on the briefcase to score the win. And I thought it was incredibly funny. That the crowd really wasn't into the match until Damian Priest showed up to kick off the Judgment Day nonsense. So again, listen, I say again because I've talked about this a few times on different shows, but I think we need to underscore that, like, you know, I always have a question. I don't think I understand what WWE fans want out of their wrestling anymore. I do know what they want out of their WWE shows. They want to pop to the entrances, and they're gonna pop when there's finishers. That's what they do. And then if there's storylines, and then people involved in the storylines start showing up, then they get real excited. That's what they want. These pesky wrestling matches getting in the way, though, right? Am I right, my boys? Like, there's just... The Judgment Day stuff is going to be bloodlineized, isn't it? Is that a word? Bloodlineized? Interminable months until we get Priest versus Balor for the heavyweight title, the world heavyweight title, right? This is the path, right? More months of this nonsense. They're probably delaying the inevitable so that they can figure out what to do with Dominic once they all split up. Anyway, finish was all over the place. Couldn't care for it. Match was okay. I guess I liked it. Liked it more than other things. Then we had... So this is the part where I think everyone sort of turned on the show, or anyone with a brain anyway, and why in the minds of people this was a terrible show. Because I don't think it was a terrible show. But Bianca Belair defeated Asuka and Charlotte Flair to become the new WWE Women's Champion. I came into this match with a lot more optimism than I feel a lot of other people did. Because the women in WWE always seem to work really well together, mesh well together in triple threat situations. But this, it didn't work. It stunk. All three women just sort of rolled through stuff. And there's things here, as a casual viewer of WWE, that shocked me. Bianca, I find, doesn't have her superstar aura anymore. At least not in this match. You know, where was that Bianca Belair, you know, coming out at WrestleMania with the fanfare, with the marching band, or the little girls, the dance troupe? She looks like a fucking superstar. Now she's okay. She comes out and she does her things, and you know, people still love her. They still love the reaction, but I'm talking superstar aura. And Charlotte stunk. She really did. I don't know why in 2003 she still insists on doing fucking moonsaults when they never connect. 1 out of every 7 moonsaults that Charlotte Flair does connects. Those are not good averages. At some point, you just stop doing them. That's where one of the agents comes up, pushes his glasses up, is like, Miss Flair, I think this moonsault move that you have here set up, I don't think we should do that. But there's even things in this match where I'm like, what the fuck is she thinking? What is she thinking? Like, in pure wrestling psychology terms, okay? Bear with me here. She decided to put a figure 4 leg lock on 2 people at once. It didn't work, of course. They rolled out of it, but in the psychology of the match, Charlotte Flair as a wrestler, as a competitor in the match, as someone putting a story together in the ring, okay? Picked up a leg from both of her competitors and proceeded to try to put them in a figure 4 at the same time. Like, I don't even know. Now, of course it failed because they pushed her away because they were like, what the fuck are you doing, right? But of course, that my point is that of course it's supposed to fail because it's not humanly possible to do that in this situation. But how did she come to the realization to say, in the kayfabe story, in the psychology of it, she decided this was a good idea? I don't understand. Best spot of the show was when Bianca's 450 did that 450 on Charlotte's figure 8 bridge. Credit. That was a dope spot. This crowd was not into this match. You know what they were mad? You know what they were into? They were into the mist and the finish, right? Bianca's in the figure 8. She's about to tap. Asuka comes in. She missed Charlotte in the face. Then Asuka goes after Bianca. She counters with a roll up. She pins Asuka. She's the champ. And that got the people excited. Like I said, they want their finishes. They want their finishers. They want the recognizable spots. This match was a bore. Things happened. Things felt disjointed. And we are going to have to, very soon, we are going to have to start having conversations about how overrated WWE's women's division is. Being called, greatest place on earth for women and so on and so forth. And they, they give all this time and all these matches. The quality, the output of these matches is terribly overrated. And we are going to have to be adults and talk about this if we want women's wrestling to improve. Now, if we don't, we can keep our head in the sand and keep saying, gee, Willikers, good job, girls. But this was not good job, girls. These 3 women together, think for a second. Just think for a second. The 3 women who were in this match: Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Asuka. All women who have worked in big matches, who have proven themselves in multiple scenarios to be great wrestlers. What is going on? What is this? We're going to have conversation about pushing the right people. And I'm not just talking about WWE here in this circumstance, but we are going. Let's just focus here because we're talking about SummerSlam, but we're going to have conversations about pushing the right people. We're going to have conversations about it, about not only being the amount of women's matches, but the quality. We have to have a conversation about both. We have to have observable, quantifiable, and observable, qualifiable. We're going to have both. As long as we pat WWE on the back for doing this stuff, for booking more than one match. Hey, good job, WWE. You booked 2 matches on your 2 women's matches. If this is minimum bare effort, and this is what it creates, then no, we cannot be satisfied about this. And this, again, is criticism that comes from a place of love, because I want this to improve. I was not satisfied with what the women did at SummerSlam, one of the biggest shows WWE is going to put on in 2023 this year. And I am sitting in my chair and I'm saying, Jesus Christ, this breaks my heart. This breaks my heart because I should be rooting for them. I should be up out of my chair applauding. I should not have one women's match a month off of an XYZ promotion, or Ring of Honor, or something that doesn't have the size or the reach that a WWE or an AEW does. I shouldn't have to dig so deep to find like one women's match per month where it's like, yeah, this fucking rules. I shouldn't have to. Does that make sense? Because the more we just say, bravo, ladies, good job, it's not good enough, and it's not going to improve. We're going to regress. We're gonna have, Maxine Dupree doing the worm in the ring every week. That's what we're gonna get. This is not an indictment, and I'm not saying that we should be removing time from women. We should be taking them off of television, but we need to rethink how this is being approached, because this is not working. It's not working in AEW either. They're both guilty. Guilty as sin on this front. No one does this well in North America. No one. The only place you can turn to see women competing as athletes, putting on excellent matches, is in Japan. Why haven't we not cracked this formula? Why have these companies, these billion-dollar companies, there's another one coming up that's going to be a billion-dollar company soon. Don't get me wrong here. Why haven't these billion-dollar companies cracked the code with some of the excellent talent that they have in their midst right now? Why are we settling for this? Excuse me, gets me heated. And then after the match, one of the biggest reactions of the night was Io Shirai cashing in her Money in the Bank, briefcase thing on Bianca Belair to become WWE Women's Champion. Now, listen. I was just talking about, let's push the right people. Io Shirai, one of the greatest wrestlers alive. Not just women, wrestlers alive. Should absolutely be the focus of your women's division. Finally, they're fucking waking up. So I am for this. I am concerned about the level of competition she has. I am concerned that because Io won the belt via Money in the Bank, that maybe WWE doesn't have full faith in her and they're gonna give it a try, right? Let's think back to recent winners, Nikki Cross and Liv Morgan, right? Liv Morgan, beloved superstar Liv Morgan that everyone was 100% behind, right? Management wasn't behind her. Nikki Cross, management wasn't behind her. We're going to see just how much Io Shirai is being supported by management, because that is important. Like, I've talked about Money in the Bank and how it's overplayed and how I'm done with it. I'm kind of done with the concept. But look, and I'll tell you. Here's something else that ties into what I was saying just a few minutes ago. Everyone clapping their hands and saying, what a great moment for Io Shirai, right? I'm like, she deserves this moment. No, you know what Io Shirai deserves? You know what she deserves? She deserves to run a program with a world champion and have a proper build to a big time match at a pay-per-view and defeat the champion 1, 2, 3 and walk out the champion. That's what she deserves. That's what she deserves. You see what I mean when I talk about, oh, great stuff, guys. Yeah, you did it. Money in the Bank is not an instant star creator. It hasn't been for years. Because if it had, Liv Morgan would not be relegated to chasing after, tag team titles over and over again. Nikki Cross would not have vanished off of television if it was so big. This is what I mean. And it's not to poo-poo on Io Shirai winning a fucking title in WWE. That's not it. It's just our expectations have been so displaced. We're always like, that's pretty good. Oh, we're all okay, good. This good thing happened. But we forget that these are cop-outs. They're quick fixes. This does not make for a compelling start to anyone's championship. Hell, you can even look at Big E. Big E. Beloved pro wrestler Big E by the locker room, by fans, and WWE couldn't get behind them. What kind of shot do you think poor Io Shirai has here? I cross my fingers. I'm hoping, like chat mentioned, there's rumors that Kairi Sane's on her way back. Let's get the start emojis here and let's show these North Americans how to do it. You know what I mean? I will say, all of Damage Control celebrating in the ring a year after their debut. I thought that was a nice touch. It was nice to see Dakota Kai, even though she's not ready to come back. I did see what a crowning moment for Damage Control. Makes us forgive everything that happened in the past month or so. How? No, the past year of booking. No, don't forget. See, this is it again. Don't forget what happened in the past year of Damage Control's absolutely dirt shit booking. Don't forget it. Don't erase it. Because this is the kind of thing where WWE goes, we don't have to put in the effort with the women then. Because we just have to give them a nice feel-good moment on the pay-per-view and everyone's happy again. That's all we have to do. Jingle jangle the keys. Look over here, guys. That's exactly what it is. You couldn't have more concrete proof than that. Than someone over on Cage Side Seats writing an article saying, this sets everything right. We can forget, the terrible year they had. No, do not forget the terrible year they had. Expect better from your bookers, especially when it comes to your favorites. This does not fix everything. This should be like, okay, now let's see what happens. But I won't forget. I won't forget the absolute shit year when they had absolute gold in their hands. Gold. A trio of women beloved by fans everywhere. It was not hard to get people behind Damage Control. It was not hard. They fucked it up. They fucked it up the minute they had them lose the tournament for the tag team titles. From that point, that is the moment where it was clear to me, hey, management doesn't believe in these people. Management's not supporting them. They're cooked. They're done. How you doing, Nick Nutter? Good to see you and welcome to the chat. So this match stunk. But then it somehow got worse when Roman Reigns defeated Jey Uso in a tribal combat match for the undisputed Universal title. First of all, and I will make sure that you all understand this. If there is another world heavyweight title in your company, then your title is disputed. It's disputed. This is not undisputed. Okay? We clear? We're good? All right, let's move on. Where to start, actually? I don't know. First of all, this match starts off as the calmest, most soothing blood feud of all time, doesn't it? Doesn't it? A match that is supposed to have such personal implications and fiery emotions and personal involvement, it's not just, it's bigger than the belts, I was even told. Oh, gee willikers, look at that. Oh, I wonder, geez, if only there had been an opportunity to take the belts off of Roman. If only. But for a match that was supposed to be a blood feud, this started off very, very smooth. I was almost expecting a collar and elbow tie-up. Pacing, watching. You know, they're in the fucking middle of the ring, right? They're in the middle of the ring, and the ref is, you know, they're doing the thing. Jimmy Uso should have popped Roman right in the mouth right there. Let's get this shit going. Especially after the match that just happened, this crowd needed to wake up. They're staring at each other. And then, there's glimmers of hope. You know, there's glimmers of hope. There's a strap. When our boy here, when our boy Jay pulls out a strap, I'm like, okay, this is starting to get interesting. And he takes it to Roman, don't get me wrong. But then there is no more, there's no more strap. It just disappeared. I don't know what happens to the strap, but it was one of the, one of the most interesting things going on, and it just disappeared. And then they decide to walk and brawl. They walk and brawl into the crowd. Solo Sikoa appears in nowhere, gets involved. And wasn't this match supposed to bar any type of interference? Wasn't that an actual stipulation to this match? There was no one could interfere, and then at the first possible moment, there's interferences, right? And as long and plodding as the opener was, as the opening to this match was, and the walk and brawl was, the minute Solo Sikoa showed up, everything went downhill. Boring, dragged, nothing happened. This shit, billed as a blood feud, was some of the most boring stuff I have seen in a major league main event in a long time. Do you know how far I have to go back in my brain to try and figure this all? To try and figure out a comparison, I should say. Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, WrestleMania 20. That's the only main event that comes to mind where I'm like, yeah, this was terrible. This was bad. No, not 1943. Bobby Means, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. And this was the main event. And I'm not into the bloodline stuff. See, this is the thing, is that probably people who are super involved into the bloodline feud and who follow it religiously are probably, they were probably super into it. But I wasn't. I couldn't care less about this. Like, this is not a story that interests me. Whatever drama is going on a wrestling, in a wrestling program, is of no concern to me, and it distracts from my enjoyment of a match. If what happens builds in the match and creates the match and makes it better, then normally I don't have to watch like weeks and weeks of this. This was billed to me and everyone, tribal combat. It's a blood feud. It's another way to put it. I was excited. I was, okay, how far are these guys going to go? Well, they barely crossed the road. They barely got out of the driveway. They pulled the car out a little bit, and then they saw clouds coming in and were like, oh, you know what? Maybe we'll wait. It looks like rain. Let's go back inside, kind of thing. So at the very least, if the nonsense, if the angle, the story is minimal and doesn't keep us away from a good match, I'm okay with it. I'm absolutely okay with it. But here, the bloodline stuff powered this match. It was the reason why it existed and why it had to be brutal. So you can't have one without the other here. And yet, WWE fans are rejecting it. WWE fans are calling this a jump the shark moment. Jimmy runs in, takes out Jay. Everyone is confounded, even me. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. In the 7-minute package that, they showed us Jimmy doing a stretcher job, and now he's back and he's on Roman's side. So the story is exactly back to where it is. It's the monthly betrayal. It's, the monthly betrayal, the monthly Roman scowls at people, and now they're going to have the trial of Jay Uso at some point. Like, I have no idea how they're going to end this. But and listen, it's doing good business for them. You can't take that away. This is, the silver lining is that clearly WWE fans like this. But instead of building on the story, they're rehashing shit. Good storytelling would have you go down different avenues. There'd be truly surprising things, but this has been rinse and repeat. The bloodline is in WCW 2000 territory right now. Swerving for the sake of swerving because, they don't know how to keep this story going while the business is so good. They're like, we can't end it now. All right, what do we do? Creativity, true creativity would allow them to build on it, take it in different directions, but that's not what we have here. Ultimately, it's a storyline that I'm not invested in. And objectively, this was a half hour, 30-minute disaster of a main event, a match which should have been a plant the flag moment for this storyline for WWE, a keystone event, which had years of bad blood and personal animosity fueling all of this. But I can't recall, like I said, such a poor main event effort outside of Brock Goldberg at WrestleMania 20. I can only assume that WWE fans at this point have figured out that there is no plan for this story. They don't know what they're doing anymore. They're throwing things at the wall. They want to keep this going because it's doing good for them. It's popping quarter hours. It's driving merch. It's probably driving ticket sales. Like, they want to make sure that this stays alive as long as possible. But what we ended up getting is legitimately one of the worst matches of the year. And then on top of it all, Roman Reigns got hurt. We learned today Roman Reigns got injured in the match. I don't think there's any word right now on his status, how injured he is, how things are going. Roman, are you okay? How long he'll be out, how severe. We don't know anything outside of the fact that he got injured in this match. And I'd like to know where. Because this was the lightest fucking blood feud I have ever seen. Terrible match. Which ends up creating a mediocre show that nonetheless had good moments. Chat just reminded me of a very important detail nonetheless. WWE breaking up their seminal tag team. Because of course they will, right? But you know what I think? Look, I honestly think that on Friday Night SmackDown, they're all going to get in the ring and they're all going to hug it out. You're going to have Roman in the ring with Jimmy and Solo, and Roman's going to be like, "Oos, you're my cousin, Oos. You're like a brother to me, Oos, and you showed me, Oos, at SummerSlam that you had something in you, Oos. You showed that you're ready. You might not be ready to become tribal chief, Oos, but when the time comes, I will leave it in your hands, Oos. But you have to come back and join us, Oos." And then they're all going to fucking hug, and it's all going to be fine, and we're all going to be back to square one. I am just saying. Why don't we have a little word about WWE's earnings call that happened last week. Look, I'm not going to dive into it at this point very deeply because it's kind of old news at this point. It's been by the time I did the podcast, I was doing my podcast on Tuesdays. It was already. Look, it just, the nothing really aligned for me to do some proper coverage of it. So I'm not going to sit here and do that because I think it's been covered quite a bit, and WrestleNomics has some fantastic breakdowns of it all. But broad strokes, WWE is making a shit ton of money, revenue, $410.3 million, the largest quarter in the history of the company. Operating income's at $87.3 million for a net income, ergo profits, of $52 million. No one is really surprised that they're making a lot of money. However, a lot of people are surprised that they're making that much money. The revenue was over expectations. But there is one thing that surprised a lot of people. One thing that did, sort of catch people off guard. This was released on August 2nd in WWE's 10Q, which is the quarterly report that's filed with the SEC. WWE disclosed that Vince McMahon was being subpoenaed, or was subpoenaed, I should say. Let me read the thing here. As previously disclosed on June 17, 2022, a special committee of the board of directors was formed on June 15, 2022 to investigate allegations of misconduct by Vince McMahon. As previously disclosed, the special committee investigation was completed during the fourth quarter of 2022. However, related government investigations remain ongoing. On July 17, 2023, federal law enforcement agents executed a search warrant and served a federal grand jury subpoena on Mr. McMahon. No charges have been brought in these investigations. The company has received voluntary and compulsory legal demands for documents, including from federal law enforcement and regulatory agencies concerning the investigation and related subject matters. So we're all deducing here, I think it's also pretty clear, that the subpoena and the search warrant were related to the NDA payments, I should say, that Vince McMahon performed to allegedly women who were who had received sexual advances, let's put it that way, allegedly, of course, by Vince and John Laurinaitis. But this also includes payments to Donald Trump as well. All these payments that were not properly recorded as company expenses. WWE then sent out a message on August 2nd as well to all staff with some comments from Vince McMahon and an official comment from the WWE itself. First of all, let's read Vince's comment. In 2022, WWE formed a special committee to review allegations of misconduct against me. That review was concluded in November 2022 following an extensive investigation. Throughout this experience, I have always denied any intentional wrongdoing and continue to do so. I am confident that the government's investigation will be resolved without any findings of wrongdoing. I am focused on completing the recovery process from my recent spinal surgery and on closing our transaction with Endeavor, which will create one of the preeminent global sports and entertainment brands. Now, as for WWE's statement, we believe this is a continuation of the investigation that commenced last summer. WWE has cooperated throughout and fully understands and respects the government's need for a complete process. So yeah, so this all seems, like I said, seems to be related to to the NDAs, but also, all of these things, all of these payments that Vince should have declared as expenses of the company. During the Q&A, we had Nick Khan as well say we continue to fully cooperate with any investigation. Outside of that, we are not going to comment on any legal matter. So that's very interesting. Doubly interesting then, that just a few days previous to that, previous to when this the subpoena was revealed within the 10Q, it was announced that Vince was undergoing spinal surgery. It was reported on July 28 that it happened, and that it was pretty intensive, and then it happened the previous week, the week before. McMahon is currently on medical leave from the company with no target date listed for his return. McMahon is still the executive chairman of the company, right? But until he has a full recovery, he would not be working with the company, so no one should expect no one should really expect, late changes on TV beyond, maybe some tweaking that happens on the same level right now. So this is all interesting, right? Because look, you cannot but not think of, and I know many, this is not, an original thought from me. Many people thought the same thing. This is very much, and the chat sees it too. This sounds very fishy, not unlike the last time Vince was taken to task by the feds and had to bust out a neck brace because suddenly he had like a neck issue. Now it's a spinal issue. I'll tell you this, look, at his advanced age and with the routine that he has, the weightlifting and whatnot, and he's taken his fair share of bumps over the years as well, and so on and so forth. I think it's fair to assume that the surgery for his back, for his spine, is legitimate. There's, you'd think there's a case for that can be made. It's not something that's just completely coming out of left field. It's like, hey, I have a tumor on the brain or whatever. It's like, no, this is something that corroborates, and probably didn't want to have that get out too much because Vince is a very proud guy. This is the guy, who says, who doesn't like sneezing. He doesn't like when people sneeze because you're not supposed to be sick, kind of thing, So, it's interesting, but I do have to ask, I do wonder, what is Vince going to do if he's not working? Because this is a guy that's all he works, and he goes to the gym. That's all he does. He goes out once every 15 years, to go have a birthday meal with John Cena or what the fuck, and that's the extent of it. So it was stated that he's been removed from his duties for now. He's taking a leave from everything. And again, look, I'm not saying that the coincidence is not immense here. Like this, if you want a tinfoil hat for a bit here, he could absolutely. This is surgery maybe he's been needing to have for the past 5 years or so, and he's been putting it off. And then all of a sudden, this pops in and he's like, oh, let's schedule a surgery. Get me out of here. Play the sympathy card. I'm an old man. He'll do it if he needs it, But, I still wonder, what he's going to be doing at home, doing nothing. Like, not working at all. I really have trouble believing it. At the very least, he's going to be watching the product. At the very least, he's sending notes, right? He's got to be on his iPad or whatever, sending notes. At the very least. But you know what? I think that I don't think anything is going to come out of this. You know, if he was able to brute force his way back into the company, don't let anyone tell you otherwise, being forced out of his company, but then forcing his way back in and just have everything be, yeah, super hunky-dory, no big deal, everything's fine. I don't know. Like, I don't know if this will damage him or even ding him. I think at the very least, you know, I'll keep my expectations very low because this is, you know, money issues. The SEC, like, I don't know what type of, I'm not going to pretend that I understand the extent of their power. I'm assuming that there could potentially be jail time. There's absolutely going to be fines, but he is going to be okay, you know? There's nothing here, I feel, that is going to spell the death of Vincent Kennedy McMahon here. Because look, in the meantime, you know, you have Ari Emanuel from Endeavor who's doing the earnings call, and he's saying, "Hey, you know what? You know, we're gonna move forward here, and the deal to combine WWE and UFC is gonna happen next month." Oh, really? Yeah. The deal. I'm gonna read an article here off of Post Wrestling from our boy Andrew Thompson. The deal to combine WWE and UFC within TKO Group Holdings is expected to close next month. Excuse me. Endeavor released their second quarter results, and one of the highlights in the report is the transaction to combine UFC and WWE within TKO Group Holdings is expected to close in mid to late September 2023. So that's happening. You know, they had projected to do that in you know, early fall for a while. It's clearly happening. Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel is going to serve as CEO of TKO Group Holdings, and Vince McMahon will be executive chairman. On the call, Emanuel also added that there are plans underway to make cost savings and synergies happen immediately upon closing. Now, what does that mean? What is this corporate speak? What does that mean in plain old simple English? Well, people are going to lose their jobs. But again, this was something that was bound to happen. We knew this was going to happen. This is the quintessential thing with mergers, is that eventually, when the thing does happen, redundancies happen. Yes, future endeavors, exactly. There will be you know, redundancies will occur within two companies coming together, so people are losing their jobs. And you know, I know a lot of people are saying, you know, making jokes about talent and whatnot, and you know, I always kind of feel weird, you know, joking about people losing their jobs. You know, it's not, you know, I wouldn't want someone to point their finger and laugh at me if I lose my job. But I think, like, I think mostly office staff are going to be impacted from this. People working in production as well. I think those are going to be the two principal areas where, you know, administration, office, production, TV production, event production. Those are going to be the areas where I expect to be the most cuts. I would be surprised if talent gets the axe. I'm not saying that it wouldn't happen, but I'd be surprised. I think, you know, as opposed to, like I said, because technically mergers are mostly about getting rid of redundancies. That's essentially what it is, creating more value, so on and so forth. I think talent is on a special scale. I don't think it's the same thing. Like, no one's going to take a look at Becky Lynch's contract and say, well, she's paid too much. Hit the bricks, Becky, kind of thing. Like, I don't think that's what this is about. Maybe they'll look at Gallows and Anderson's contracts, and they'll be like, well, who are these schmoes? What's a top dollar? Maybe, but honestly, like, I think this is going to be a lot of office finagling, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we will not be privy to. Again, don't think it's not going to happen, but I would be surprised if it does. So, I mean, that's pretty much it when it comes to that part of the news. I'm sorry I don't have a long extended take on Vince and the SEC and getting subpoenaed and search warrants. I don't at some point I was like, oh, is he a co-conspirator? But that's not where we're at today. Instead, let's move on to the world of All Elite Wrestling, where it was confirmed last week that the Elite have re-signed with AEW. It came out in the middle of the week last week and was confirmed by the boys themselves on last week's edition of AEW Dynamite. I would like to bring up Dave's reporting on it from the Observer, because he has some extensive details regarding it all. Let me get this out of the way. There we go. So he starts by saying that there was no specific length of time mentioned on the deals, past the term several years, and the belief is that the agreement was to keep the time frame under wraps. Now, not as late as yesterday in BTE, Matt Jackson and the rest of the Elite were doing the bit, where Matt Jackson was screwed them out of a contract, all that. They've been doing this bit for a few weeks now, and now he was apologizing and so on and so forth, and now they all signed contracts, and they're all still stuck with wrestling. They still have to continue wrestling. They're not millionaires without wrestling. And he said something to the effect of, well, you guys are stuck. We're all stuck together for the next 7 years. Now, it could be part of the bit, but BTE, we know that they also talk in code. They talk in code. Sometimes they drop little nuggets of information here and there. But look, Dave says the unconfirmed story going around was that they were for 4 years. And Adam Page on Dynamite, that was then announced that the signing did make mention of there being 2 more episodes, which would be 4 years. But that was more of a quick remark, and doesn't matter. He wouldn't take that as conversation, he being Dave. Yeah, so look, 4 to 7 years. We'll see what happens. A key to both the Roosh, because Roosh as well resigned. Look, a lot of resignings. Roosh, the Elite, Kip Sabian, and the Dark Order. A key to both of these is dollar figures that Khan put up for all of them. In the case of Roosh, the WWE was aware of the offer number and decided to not compete with it. In the case of the Elite, while citing the better schedule was a key, Khan's dollar figure was enough, combined with the schedule and the executive positions, to make them happy enough to sign months before, in the case of Page and the Young Bucks, that their current deals expired, and enough to make them sign without waiting for what would be expected to be a significant WWB offer. The belief is that these deals were finalized before the Boston show, the Blood and Guts show, of course, or at least largely agreed upon when Omega did the interview talking about how the group would be staying together. As noted, WWE had significant interest in Omega, whose deal time frame had expired on February 1st. But his time frame was extended due to his taking 9 months off for injury. The other 3 were under contract until the end of 2023, so WWE wouldn't have been able to pitch for them for many months. No formal offers could have been legally made for months, but Omega was number 1 on the company's most wanted list. we heard this before? Jay White is number one on the list, and so on and so forth is number one on the list. All four would have been in a great position in an open market, so Khan must have made a strong deal to get them to stay without even strongly playing the WWE card. The Bucks, Page, and Omega were repped by Barry Bloom in their negotiations, who has also in the past been the agent of Paul Levesque and is currently the agent of Chris Jericho, Bill Goldberg, and many others. So, what I take away from this, is Tony Khan, because the Young Bucks talked about having an NBA level contract, right? What I'm hearing here is Tony Khan re-signing dudes, throwing money at them, like gobs and gobs at them to keep them in the company. Them, Roosh, and then the Dark Order, and then Kip Sabian all happening at once. This feels like a guy who was on the verge of signing a very lucrative rights deal for his wrestling outfit. Don't you think? I don't think all of these things are. I don't think all these things are coincidental. The rumors have started back up recently. We're back talking about $1 billion deal for AEW. It's not finalized. They're still in negotiations, but the rumors are starting back up. And look, if I'm a guy that I know where I know I have $1 billion coming in, and I'm wrestlers knowing that this $1 billion deal is coming in, well, we're playing both these hands here, and we're like, all right, well, we want more money. How much money? This much money. Okay. Like, it does feel like AEW is about to get that AEW is about to get a shit ton of money, to put it in very simple terms. The deal isn't finalized. The deal wasn't finalized, but it is not finalized, is what I'm trying to say. But, you could potentially see, right? You could potentially see AEW nonetheless having some kind of guarantee that the money's coming in, and then they're like, well, let's spend it. Let's make sure that that we keep the people that are important. Because look, I know there's a lot of feelings that go around with the elite. A lot of people, feel very passionate about the elite. I think it would have been extremely strange for the elite to leave All Elite Wrestling. You can have all the mitigated takes you want. Oh, well, as long as Omega stays, I don't mind if the Bucks leave. I don't mind if Page leaves, but, we have to keep the Bucks or whatever. It would have been very strange. It would have been very strange. It would have been even more strange than when Cody left. It would have been much more. It would have been much more different. A feeling, a reaction, if the rest of the elite, the rest of the guys who set this company up, decided to depart as well. That would have created a hellscape of a discourse, but in all, quite frankly, would not have been a good look. Would have been a little strange, and AEW would have felt a little off, quite frankly. Meltzer adds that Bloom negotiated all the deals simultaneously, which helped him leverage. This is interesting too, because we had all heard about Omega and the Bucks and the Jacksons negotiating as a team, but never Page. This all came up. Page was included in this, so that's pretty cool. All four had made a pact to stick together, and they had been going back and forth between WWE and AEW for months about where to end up. They all agreed at the start the majority vote would be what they would all adhere to regarding where and when to sign. Dave even had a quote from one of the four saying, "You'd probably be surprised who voted where." And this story was actually corroborated by the Jacksons, who popped in on Swerve Strickland's Swerve City podcast, where the Bucks said that yes, it was the majority vote that was going to make it happen here. They negotiated as a group. This is what Matt Jackson said. He said, "I don't read any of it, but I know people are thinking, oh, how surprising the Elite re-signed. Bro, we didn't even know if we were going to re-sign. We all negotiated together as a team." And in regards to the votes, Matt added, "The votes did not line up every time. There were a lot of emotions in the last year, as the world knows. So one day, this person's voting to leave, this person's voting to go. We weren't even on the same page the whole time. At one point, Nick brought up Matt even considered retiring, then continued to wrestle for either promotion. I had to talk him out of that," he said. So I can absolutely imagine the scenario in which, you have the guys sitting around and, doing these votes where it's like, look, we have to come to an accord. We have to decide. And you end up with, you have the whole CM Punk bullshit happening. So of course there's a time where they're like, no, we're hitting the bricks. And then one day they're like, oh, maybe we'll stay. And then CM Punk goes on fucking Instagram and starts burying the company, starts burying Chris Jericho, starts burying Dave Meltzer, starts stirring up some shit. Does the whole fucking thing with the upfronts. They're like, no, this is bullshit. I want out of this. I can't blame them. I can't blame any of them for waffling during that period. I think it is a sign nonetheless. And on top of, FTR challenging them at Wembley, we're going to talk about that soon, I hope. But I think it is a sign nonetheless that things have fallen into a certain level of normalcy that, I wouldn't say it's normal what's going on right now, but a sense of contentment, or at the very least, everyone is cool with how things are set up right now. So everyone's ready to move forward. Things have clearly thawed between the Bucks and FTR. Things have thawed as well between CM Punk and Kenny Omega. We've heard that they actually had some form of reconciliation. But the Bucks and Punk are still at odds. Is this an omen that maybe down the line all of these grown men will sit down and hash things out and just think about what's best for business and do what's best for business? Oh, yeah. You'd hope so. With the money that's being shoveled at them, you'd think they might be able to put in a little effort here. Stop all this nonsense. Because I don't think CM Punk being exiled to Collision, or whatever way you want to phrase it, being quarantined on Collision, is I don't think it's a work. I think that is a legitimate thing that has been set up to quell temperaments. But, I talked about it when it was rumored that they were going to do it and so on and so forth. And then when they finally did it, this is not a sustainable situation. It's not sustainable to have one of your big stars be only on one show. Not just because of creative reasons, but because of, this gang in the locker room doesn't want to talk to this gang in the locker room. Like, that's petty, super nonsense, If anything, if anyone wanted to be hopeful that the Elite and CM Punk might finally bury the hatchet, not become friends, but just bury the hatchet and move on and work together, they should. They should feel hopeful for that. I'd feel hopeful. I feel a little more. I see the possibility of it much more now. We'll give it a few months. Because again, there's one guy on the other side of this aisle. I said once, I'll say it 1,000 times. It's not a question of if he blows up again. It's a question of when he blows up again. And stuff, but we're going a little late. And I do want to update everyone on what's going on with the G1 in case you're not in the know like I am with my daily coverage, which is still ongoing, and we'll be back tomorrow to close up D Block. We'll be back on Thursday for the quarterfinals. We'll be back on Saturday for the semifinals, and we'll be back on Sunday for the finals, and a bit of a post-mortem as well of the event. So it's a good time to subscribe to the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. So since we last talked, there are 3 blocks that have closed off the round robin portion of the tournament. IWGP Heavyweight Champion Sanada made it to the top. He won the block. Not only did he win the block, he swept the block. A perfect score. Hasn't happened in multiple years. I think it's Fujita back in 2005 that did it last. Something to that effect. So he finishes the block with 14 points. And Hikuleo, of all people, qualified in the runner-up spot with 8 points. If you want to tell me you saw that coming, you're a liar. You're a big, fat, fancy pants liar. No one saw that coming. No one. But kind of what we were talking about earlier. Kind of what we were talking about a little earlier. During the question and answer segment that we did during the live stream, when you look at the story that sometimes this 2020 thing, 2020 vision is worth it kind of thing. What's the expression? I'm losing my mind here. Hindsight is always 2020. You look at the story here because everyone was expecting the Musketeers, the Reiwa Musketeers. Jesus Christ. That's a super chat song that scared the shit out of me for some reason. I thought someone was barging in. But we're good now. Thought you guys were going to get a little reality TV. We'll get to the super chat in a second. Jesus Christ. The idea here is that the idea ultimately is that everyone thought that the Musketeers, there we go, I'm getting back on track. Everyone thought the Musketeers were going to at least be contenders, right? There was going to be one of them that at least was going to qualify. None of them qualified. Not Shota, not Yoda, not Ren, not a single one of the 3 qualified for the playoffs. Had draws amongst themselves. People even said, hey, Kaito Kiyomiya, he's the guest coming in. He's former GHG champion. No, he was squashed. Not squashed, but he was, told to hit the showers. Go back home, pally pal. It's time for you to hit the bricks. And Hikuleo had a dominant last stretch of his tournament, setting him up as a dominant monster, which is something that Gedo really likes. He likes himself a dominant monster to come up against one of his favorite baby faces. He did it with Jonah a couple of years ago with Kazuchika Okada. And here we are, we're going a bit full circle, and Hikuleo's in the quarters, and he's probably going to be facing Tetsuya Naito. If I had any money to bet, that's what I'd do. This is interesting. It's interesting that Hikuleo's moving forward, but it also says, in my opinion, that the story that he's trying to tell with none of these young guys qualifying is because none of the young guys were ready this year. And they're going to have to struggle a little more to really make their mark in the G1, right? Same goes with El Fantasmo, and we'll see in a second that he didn't get himself over. This is his second G1. These guys, this is all their first appearance. So again, it was like, okay, this is the kind of storytelling that exists in Japan, and that makes a ton of sense, and that has true foresight looking into what's coming up down the road. So essentially all he's saying here is that the Musketeers, it's not their time. We still have our top guys, and we are going to continue building these top guys. Imagine how much more exciting it will be, let's say, for Shota Umino to do his best, try 2, 3 G1s, and maybe on the fourth one will be the big one. And we'll have to had time to think about it and process it and go through the drama with him until he really gets his win. And that's the kind of storytelling I get behind. So it's weird, it's strange, but it also makes sense. That will it make for a compelling match? Probably not. Yeah, quite frankly. But Sanada, Hikuleo, they're up there. Kazuchika Okada won Block B with 12 points, and Will Ospreay on the final night defeated El Fantasmo to qualify as well. He'll be the runner-up, therefore in second place. Outside of an excellent match that Ospreay and Fantasmo had, outside of that, it was a critical moment in the tournament for both of these guys. It could have been a choice to have Fantasmo move forward, and I was sort of leaning that way because of all the rumors that Will Ospreay's contract has done this year, and that he's on January 1st, and that he's planning on leaving New Japan. I was like, all right, well, here we go. He's out. You leave the territory, you put people over, kind of thing. But no, not quite yet. Might still be just at the rumor stage at this point. I mean, he is U.S. champion still. So we've got Ospreay and Okada in the quarterfinals. So that's good news for matches moving forward. Block C concluded today with David Finlay and Evil qualifying. It's a Bullet Club. It's a Bullet Club steal here. Evil had one of the greatest / infuriating matches today. If you want my full report on that, you should listen to my G1 recap because that was insane. And Dave Finlay had a very good showing as well against Eddie Kingston, a great match. And so that's where we're at. So yeah, Eddie Kingston's out of the tournament. Tama Tonga's out of the tournament. Shingo Takagi, these were all contenders. They will not be moving forward. And I know a lot of people were disappointed that Eddie Kingston didn't make it. A lot of people questioning the sanity of not having Eddie Kingston go forward. But you know what? Here's the deal that a lot of people have to keep in mind when it comes to New Japan in 2023. This is a rebuilding year for them, like a seriously legitimate year of rebuilding. They're doing joint shows with other promotions. They are focusing on their new talent, the talent of the future, because a lot of the guys, the current top stars, they're aging, they're getting up there, they're not able to go as much and have these great matches as easily as they once could. So it's time to invest in the future and build in the now. So there's a lot of that going on. So it doesn't really surprise me that the outsiders, Eddie Kingston, Kaito Kiyomiya, are set to the curb, because you kind of want your New Japan guys to be the top guys, right? You kind of want those guys to be the ones who move forward. You don't want the weirdos dropping in for a tournament and then leaving to outclass your guys. And this is something, and it's also something true when you looked at the best of Super Juniors this year, Mike Bailey aside. But you'll see my point in a second. When you compare the best of Super Juniors this year as opposed to 2022, the 2022 one was filled with gaijin, people from coming from everywhere, in that tournament. So, and this year it was just New Japan guys, except for Mike Bailey. And well, I guess Titan, but Titan is also LIJ. But that one, look, that one's a little muddier. But it was all New Japan guys. So that's what they want to do. They want to focus on their own people, putting their own stuff forward. So this, having the quarterfinals be made up of all New Japan guys makes a lot of sense. I mean, after all, they're in control. It's their company. It's their tournament. They get to book it whichever way they want. And the G1 is always a kickoff point for stories down the road, for the big stories for Wrestle Kingdom. That's their principal concern. Not putting AEW guys over. That makes sense. Not putting Noah guys over. Unless it benefits them in some way. But, yes, I did see Eddie Kingston and Koala. And it was the most gloriously authentic thing to see Eddie Kingston be completely disarmed. Completely disarmed. Stars in his eye. Looking like a fucking nerd. And I say that lovingly. Just like us. When we meet, our big superstars, when we do the meet and greets and we're like, hey, I really like your stuff, thank you. And you never know not quite to say, and he's saying, your match, 93 Kasawa with Misawa. And, that's nerd stuff that I would say. And Kawada's great about it, where he's like, yes, yes, thank you, kind of thing. And it's a glorious moment. I thought that was fantastic. Unfortunately, will not carry over into the rest of the tournament, but he's still doing the tour, so he's not heading back to the US just yet. But look, this is a guy who had a very good tournament. I'd even go as far as to say that it was better than I was expecting from him. So that's also very good. To me, he over-delivered, and I'm sure he's very happy with the results. And I don't think it's the last time we're going to see Eddie Kingston in Japan. So that's where we're at with the blocks that are closed. So tomorrow, as I'm recording this, it's tomorrow, but by the time you're listening to this, the block is probably already done. We have Jeff Cobb, Zack Sabre Jr., and Tetsuya Naito all at 8 points. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Hiroki Goto are at 6 points. It's still anyone's ball game. There's a lot of scenarios here. Jeff Cobb has tiebreakers over everyone. Tetsuya Naito and Hiroshi Tanahashi are fighting in the main event. Theirs is the last match. So if Tetsuya Naito wins, he qualifies. If Tanahashi wins, it's not guaranteed that he qualifies because other people have a lot of people have tiebreakers over him. So listen, if you want the scope of it, if you want the full scope of it all, I invite you with great sincerity to listen to my recap today that I posted today for night 15, where I try my best to break down the scenarios and give you a good idea of what's going to happen. So last night of round robin action, tomorrow, or at least August 9. Then we head over on August the 10th, Thursday, for the quarterfinals. So we're not screwing around here. We're going straight into the quarterfinals, semifinals on Saturday, finals on Sunday. It'll be a hell of a ride. I don't want to spoil anything as far as my views and thoughts, but you know what? I really like the G1 this year. I thought there was a lot more good. Over the past couple of years, there have been a couple of miserable ones. Pandemic, so did whatever it had to do, but there were some miserable G1s. This one, listen, just to keep up, to help me out, because this is not the kind of shit that I put out in public, because star ratings but I do put star ratings on these matches just to help me refer to where I am. The matches that I really liked, and just to keep track of stuff when we do, postmortems and stuff like that. It's not stuff I'm going to publish because, I don't want people poring over my ratings and so on and so forth. It's stupid. But I have 28 matches that I've put 4 stars or more. 28 matches. Which these are matches that I consider great. I'm like, yeah, let's go. As far as, so that's what I have right now. 28 matches. There'll probably be a couple more added today. And as for my top 5, my own personal top 5 so far, there's been some movement. There's been a match that's been bumped from the top 5. Let's recount them. Number 5, Eddie Kingston versus Tomohiro Ishii, July 26. Tai Chi versus Will Ospreay from July 15. Shingo Takagi versus Hanare at number 3 from the July 19 show. At number 2, Kazuchika Okada versus Tai Chi from the July 21st show. And my number 1 match of the tournament so far is El Fantasmo versus Will Ospreay from August 5th. It's, if you want to know, it's my first 5-star match of the tournament. That was incredible. And I highly suggest you go check it out. All 5 of these matches. And I give recommendations on every night on top of that. So there's still a few more of those to come. So that's where we're at with the G1 so far. I can't hammer home enough that the G1 is coming to a close. But I will still be covering it on a daily basis. So it's a good time to subscribe if you're into it. If you want to keep up with the tournament, you want my thoughts, you want my analysis, you want my recommendations. I'm still around doing that. So there you have it. I guess this is going to lead us into the conclusion of the weekly wrestling inspection. Before we wrap things up, DGMC left us a super chat with one more question. Thank you very much for the super chat, DGMC. I appreciate it. It says one more question. AJ Lee coming in to help AEW with coaching creative for the women is a potential HR nightmare, right? TK, hire Allison Danger, please. I think Allison Danger is a much better choice than a couple of coaches they have there right now. But AJ Lee that's just asking for trouble. Begging for trouble. I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't even consider it. It's just begging for trouble. I like AJ Lee, don't get me wrong, but it's a little stickier. It's a little stickier than just, hey, AJ Lee's great. No, yes, she is, but But on that note, we are going to wrap up tonight's edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. If you are listening on demand right now, you don't quite understand what this question thing was about. I record live every Thursday night at 7 p.m. We do a live stream and I have, community activities. We do things together. And I had a Q&A tonight. So this was a question that came in after the official Q&A period. So if you ever want to pop in and ask me questions, 7 p.m. every Tuesday is when we record. So there you go. You can come and join us there. Or you can just, watch it on demand, which is absolutely fine as well. Or listen to it on your favorite podcast application, which is what you're doing right now, probably either or. Thank you very much. Remember to leave a like on YouTube. A subscription as well would be a great help. Or also a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify. All things that help out the podcast grow tremendously. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to allow me to regale you with wrestling tales this week. I will be back tomorrow for G1. I will be back Thursday for the AEW Dynamite review. Look, I'm doing all sorts of things. I'm going to be around wherever you decide to come back. I'll see you next time.